Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greetings everyone. Very good afternoon. Very sunny afternoon as well. Very sunny Sunday today. Distinguished guests, Prof, Dr. Zahrom, Dato Dr. Narimah, Dr. Farouk, Prof Norani, Othman, Dr. Dzulkefly Ahmad, Dr. Patricia, and of course, Prof James Piscatori. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the discussion today that we are having. And basically, I'm introducing the session. This program is organized by Islamic Renaissance Front together with Nottingham University and G25. And this is actually the second session. We had one session yesterday on the topic on, the lecture sessions featuring Prof James Piscatori. Yesterday was on democracy and terrorism. And we are also going to have one session tomorrow as well in ICMAS UKM. That one is on religion, politics, and peace. But I think it's better for us to focus back on today's topic, which is Islamizing the state, religious politics in Malaysia. Indeed, a fascinating topic that we're going to discuss. I just introduced myself a bit. I'm Ihsan from Islamic Renaissance Front. It was just late last year I finished my thesis in UKM, which I touched about the variety of functions and role which Islam has played throughout the history of Malaysia. Interesting indeed, when we look into the different phases, Islam in some ways played different functions and role throughout our society. And it started way back in the pre-colonial times, mainly as in shaping the culture of Muslims. In most aspects, still remains until today. And in the next part, we know that we faced the time of the colonial times, and it was not something as easily being welcomed by our people. And we can see the role of Islam in terms of pushing for liberation in the country. And in the later part, during the time of our independence, Islam played a significant role in terms of the laws. In fact, it's also included in our constitution as well. And later part in quite a massive Islamic movement, and as well government bureaucracy. And this is also a fascinating part. When towards the end of the 70s, perhaps throughout the 80s, we know that Islam has played quite a major important role throughout Muslim world in terms of various movements, modernist or reformist movements as well. And to some point, in some countries, it created a big problem. But in Malaysia, for some reason, it was able to adapt together with the government and the bureaucracy and created quite a number of government institutions. There are some positive things if you want to see on this aspect. Within that, between 10 to 20 years, we have created various types of institutions, education, banking. The Tabung Haji is being seen as a good model at that time, which it assists and help the people to do Hajj and come up with a lot of things. The Pusat Islam. These all institutions in some ways played significant function for the society. However, it is interesting to note, there's always some limitation in how religion is supposed to be used in a society. Over religiosity can in some ways cause some kind of problem. This is what we can see in recent times. Increasing politicization of religion. In some ways, religion is being pushed in a bit too much when it comes to the creation of laws and in terms of the legal system. And to some point, the call for Islamic State. I just would like to end my brief introduction with one short conversation I had with a friend when I was abroad. So he asked me about, tell me about Malaysia. Is Malaysia an Islamic state? Is Malaysia a secular state or something? I say, not exactly, but there is one provision in the constitution which says Islam is the religion of the federation. So he asked me, what does that mean? So for me, jokingly, I was saying that generally Muslims in Malaysia believe that for anyone to go to heaven, they must be Muslim first. So the majority may just think that in positive note that, okay, by such declaration, everyone in the state will go to heaven. So, but this is one point which I want to make. Okay, this is one point which I want to make. Of course, I was joking at that time. But if we try to notice in terms of the laws being introduced, which is being promoted, and how things which is not being seen as Islamic by the so-called mainstream or majority of Muslims, this is the act which is being pushed towards those who are a bit different. They are being seen as, you are not going to go to heaven, God is angry with you, these kind of things. So, in this aspect, there is a mob mentality in this aspect. Okay, I will straight away pass the introduction to Professor Zaharom to give the welcoming speech. Professor Zaharom from Nottigham University. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome everybody. I'll keep this very brief, I think. It's with great pleasure that I welcome all of you and provide what I hope will be a succinct introduction to an increasingly important topic in our fast-changing society, Malaysian society that is. Change which troubles a lot of us, and change which need not necessarily be changed for the good. But before that, I'd like to welcome all four speakers whom I've come to know at different moments in my life. Professor James Piscatori has worked with both IRF and Nottingham, Malaysia, for more than a couple of years now, coming to Malaysia to speak on numerous occasions, providing insights into our condition which bear thinking seriously about. Professor Norani Othman, Noi, sorry, got to work this out, okay. Alerted us to the problems we are now facing many years ago, although unfortunately for all of us, the many establishments, apparatchiks in Malaysian academia refuse to take heed. Dr. Patricia Martinez is a friend I befriended first on Facebook, but whose work I had accessed and admired many years ago, and she speaks with passion and commitment, something I feel that is very rare these days in Malaysian academia. She has indeed left Malaysian academia in 2007, I was told, giving 24 hours notice. I was also told about that. and with her leaving Malaysian academia lost another rare critical scholar. Dr. Dzulkefly Ahmad, I first befriended in King George Secondary School in Seremban, and we continued bumping into each other in England and later in USM Penang. So it's nice on a personal level to welcome all the speakers. It is also good to be working with IRF again. For that, I must thank Dr. Farouk, who has also turned out to be a good friend and, if you must, co-conspirator. Thank you, Farouk. Today's topic for discussion comes at a time when Malaysians are faced with the prospect, some would say threat, of becoming a different society altogether as envisioned by Malaysia's founding fathers. Diversity, pluralism, mutual respect and understanding appear to have become quite alien to some sections of the Malaysian public. This, it has been argued, has become the case due to the exploitation of especially religion and race by a state that is unwilling to govern democratically and wishes to cling on to power using every strategy and tactic at its command. There is now, it has been forcefully asserted, the prospect of Malaysia and Malaysians being faced with the tyranny of the majority. And this whole process of Islamizing the state, some argue, is bringing us there. Lately, there have been assertions that looking more seriously at the Rukun Negara and using it as a preamble for the federal constitution will somehow put a brake on this development. But many of us are not too sure, given that the Rukun Negara itself has its problems. I hope that this afternoon's deliberations, moderated by Dato Dr. Narimah Awin, will bring us somewhere towards getting some answers to the many worrying developments facing us today. So welcome again, and thanks for taking time off on a Sunday afternoon to be here. With that, let me hand the mic and proceedings over to Dr. Narimah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ehsan and Prof. Shahrom. Dr. Farouk, Prof. Shahrom, main speaker, Professor Piscatori, and my three panelists, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to moderate this session today. And we all know one of Malaysia's greatest assets, potential assets, is our multi-plural population. And if this is harnessed optimally and positively, we can be an example to the rest of the world. But sadly, as Professor Zaharom said, are we seeing that? Do we have a state or a government that is an honest broker that gives every citizen, regardless of religion or ethnic group, an equal space in society? Or are we seeing a politics of appeasement that leads to what Professor Zaharom mentioned, the tyranny of the majority? Now, this as he said just now, this forum or this panel discussion is really very timely, and we intend this afternoon to really answer this question, which to me is rather rhetorical. Can the ideal society that is an inclusive society be attained by a state that pursues an agenda favoring the majority, leading to the tyranny of the majority, or one that nurtures a secular democracy where the state remains an honest broker and gives equal space to everybody? Can we have the ideal society with this model or that model? As I said, the answer is quite clear. That as it may be rhetorical, it is still something worthy of analysis, worthy of discussion, and certainly worthy of presentation by one of the credible Islamic scholars. And it therefore gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor James Piscatori, who is a leading scholar of political Islam, and he works at the Center of Arab and Islamic Studies at the Australian National University. The CV is very long, but we don't have much time. And I know that, Professor Piscatori, you've done a lot of work even in America and in London. And right now you are working on the development of pan-Islamic thought and movements. That's the easy part of my job. The most difficult part of my job is now that I have to manage the time and I have control my 4 speakers. So, Professor Piscatori, if I give you 40 to 45 minutes, we should be finished by 3:40. And then the original plan was each of the 3 panelists to be given 15 minutes. I may have to reduce it to 12 now. Okay. And not by Patricia. Patricia can have 20. Professor Piscatori.